Hi, welcome to the Diamond Mounter channel. If you're new to me, thanks very much for watching. I'm Chris Bilton, I'm a jeweller from the UK. I'm now living in Japan and making jewellery making instructional videos, so welcome. Recently I was telling someone online about an old school technique that I was taught right at the beginning of my apprenticeship, and the guy who taught me was right at the end of his career and he had worked at the company for 50 years. So that was like 20 years ago for me, so this is potentially 70 years old, this little trick. So what it is, it's a technique for protecting solder, well, stopping solder flooding where you don't want it to flood. So if you've got a join right next to somewhere where you need to do a repair or to make another solder, but it's really important that solder doesn't flood or that part doesn't move. It stops that solder being able to do what it does. Also, another use for it is, say you've got a sizer ring right next to some engraving or the hallmark, or it's broken or something and you've got to repair it. You really don't want solder to flood into that hallmark or the engraving. You can protect it to stop that happening. So I'll show you what we do. Okay, let me show you with this one. This is just to bring out my scrap pot. So I got my CB stamp when I make something. All my jewelry's got that CB stamp in there. I put my join right next to the C. So if that's a ring, like in for repair, and the join was there, right next to some engraving or the hallmark or whatever, I mean, if you get a ring in, you should really heat up the back of the shank, because solder will tarnish differently to the metal. So you can see little lines where solder joins are. If you're unlucky, it's had a piece put in the past, and you get you're gonna have two joins there. So if there's engraving and stuff to dodge, it's gonna be difficult. Especially I remember Tiffany, the entry-level Tiffany rings, they're just laser etched hallmark and they're really light. I mean, you can literally polish it out quite quickly. So any kind of soldering, filing, papering, you're going to lose any laser etched hallmarks and stuff. And people with the Tiffany rings, they're always really concerned about losing that Tiffany brand. And I always think, did you buy it because you liked it, or did you buy it just because it's got Tiffany written inside? Anyway, so the join is there right on my C. It would be difficult to solder that without solder flooding into it and then losing the detail of that little bit. So I'll show you this trick I'm on about to protect that. Okay, to do this, you've got your ring. You need a stick, like a cocktail stick or something. You need some polish. I think rouge is like the messiest stuff, so use that. And a little pot of water. I used to just lick the stick, but due to world current affairs, you need to be a bit careful spreading your germs around, so a little pot of water this time. All right, so I remember the guy telling me this. He used to, well, he showed me, he broke up little bits of polish and then mixed it up in a little dish and made a kind of paste. I don't think you need to do that. So just get the stick wet. You've got to wipe it on your polish, get polish on there. Just keep it in one little spot, so rather than mixing up paste, you are just sort of making a little wet patch on the polish. Get it on the stick. God, I haven't done this in years. Like I say, I haven't done this that much in my career, but I think it's going to be useful to people one day. And we are effectively making the engraving or hallmark kind of dirty, so solder won't go near it. Because you know how sensitive solder is for needing to be clean and fluxed well. We're now using that to our advantage by stopping the solder go where we don't want it to go. What I might do is I'm going to burn that on and then loop it, see how thorough it is. Yeah, look, you can see polish in the CB now. Yeah, the technique definitely works better. A little bit of heat on the ring, and then the polish that I did manage to get on the end of the stick just kind of melted, stained it on there really well. So yeah, a little bit of heat, get polish on your stick, a little bit of heat on the ring, and then touch it on. So get it nice and dirty. Now I could cut through that join, make sure it's really clean in the join again. Let me just try it first. I think I'll get away with it without doing that. So I'm going to turn the ring around, solder it from the other side. And hopefully it floods through nicely to the back as well. And then we'll clean it up and then see how it worked. I mean, there was actually a join there. I saw the join and then stamped it next to it on purpose. So there's already solder on the outside of this ring. I put quite a lot on so it blobs through, and we can really test this technique. There's a lot of solder floods through and it still doesn't go in that lettering, then we know it definitely works. Again, I think it might be useful protecting a join when you're soldering right next to something you really don't want to move. There you go, that's soldered quite thoroughly. Where's my loop? Gone very black. Let me pull that solder through a little bit more. Obviously there's a balancing act of protecting the engraving or hallmark, but then also not stopping you actually doing the solder that you want to do. There we go. Thought I'd just show you that before it goes in the acid or anything. You can see that the join is, it's quite nicely soldered, but all the CB looks like black. So I think that's worked really well. I'll put it in the acid and then let's have another look. I've got to say, like I put it up the acid, it was quite caked on there, so I just gave it a couple of seconds in the ultrasonic. Got that out, no problem at all. I've got to say this has worked really well, better than I thought. So let me file it and paper it and yeah, let's have another look. Just give it a bang first. You'll be careful tapping over hallmarks and engraving. You can flatten it and lose it. Especially those laser etched ones, you've got to watch out for those. Again, benefits of tight joins. Minimum solder and work much faster with less damage to the ring. So I'm going straight to this paper whizzer. Regular viewers of the channel will know I'm a strong advocate for good joins. So keep an eye on the engraving, or stamp, I should say. Try and tidy it up. I think that's it. Okay, I've got to say, perfect. You seeing that, yeah? That CB is just exactly as it was stamped. And that join is right on the C. Like I filed it up. I cut the join was right next to it. I stamped it next to the join on purpose and I filed it right up to the C. And yet it's untouched. This is a good technique. Yeah, there you go. Little trick of the trade. That worked really well, like better than I remember it going. And the trick was not trying to get kind of a paste on there or put on kind of like a wet blob. Nah, like I was having trouble getting that on there, like a decent amount. But what worked was having that ring a little bit hot and then touching it again, this melted onto it. So it's actually really accurate as well, much more accurate than trying to get a paste in a certain area. I just got that on a stick as best as I could, just touched it on where I wanted it on the ring, but the ring was hot and melted on there exactly, so it was quite accurate. Yeah, good technique, worked better than I thought, so definitely keeping that at the front of my mind from now on. Going to be useful, like if you're working on an antique piece or doing a repair or whatever, like say you're soldering right next to a hinge and you really, really cannot get solder into that hinge and ruin it. Might be worth trying this technique, I think it's worth having a go. So if you're new to the channel, yeah, welcome. Please hit like and subscribe, get the notification bell. You get a link in the description for Patreon. I'm asking for patrons to the channel and it's going to really help me out continuing this channel and then even grow it as well, because I've got a lot of things to offer which I'm not able to offer. Being out here in Japan is a bit difficult to make money, and the money I do make working in the supermarket part-time goes all to my wife, and there's still not enough to help pay for the mortgage and food and stuff. So yeah, with the patron support, I'm not asking for patrons' money to help me live my life. I just want patrons' money strictly for growing this channel. So doing the full instructional guides, I need like different shaped stones so I can explain about collets and then we can make new designs with it. One of the benefits of being a patron is you get access to the full instructional guides. And there's a new one out recently, a 3-stone ring, that mount, what's that mount? Up there. Quite an advanced piece. Took me, with my afternoons free, spent a whole week doing that. It was like 12 hours editing. Yeah, a mount like that, where I used to work in London, probably If you're a customer coming into the shop and then me making it, like literally me, not just an imaginary person in London, actually me making this mount, you'd be charged probably 2,250, I reckon, for that mount. If we were supplying the stones as well, mega money. It's like 15, 20 grand ring, that one. So I want as many people as possible to learn to make jewellery. I can only teach what I know, what I've learned, and the techniques I've been taught are tried and tested over decades in London. So they are good techniques, and I back up everything I say and say things work. I don't just say it, like I'm showing you like really close up, in depth, with explanations, clearly showing what I'm doing, talking about the tools I'm using. I'll even do something a certain way while explaining an alternative way to do it. There's a lot of information in my head that's coming out on video. So I'm just asking for between £5 or £10. If you want to become a £10 official patron, you get access to exclusive content as well. So I'm making little videos, photos, stuff going on in my bench, little things from my past, like jewellery I've made in my past, like just share an experience of a real jeweller. Yeah, that's it. So I hope you would consider becoming a patron. It really helps me out. It really helps me help you. That's the way I see it. Yeah, right, I'm off. See you later. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.